Before we get into the episode, I want to talk on seminars in 2026. Global Training Center provides a few seminars around the year, one of them being in Anaheim, California, which will happen in February. They will have tariff classification, importing procedures, international logistics, the practical real-world stuff you deal with every single day. The classes are small. The instructors are people who actually work in the space, and you walk away with materials you can use back at the office. So you can check it out down below. We'll link it. And let's go ahead and get into the episode.
Hi, today is Friday, January 9th. Welcome to Simply Trade Cindy's version. I'm Cindy Allen, CEO of Trade Force Multiplier, a global trade consultancy firm. Simply Trade Cindy's version is where I base an international trade update on a Taylor Swift song. This is also brought to you in association with the Global Training Center, the hosts of Simply Trade. Today's song is Anti-Hero, and I'll get into that in a moment. But first, what happened this week in international trade? Well, it's the first full week of 2026, and just like all the other weeks of this administration, it's been packed full of issues and new things. First, we've seen a lot of questions around valuation on steel and aluminum components. A lot of importers are expressing confusion and inability to really understand what CBP is looking for when they're asking questions about valuation that the component level and Section 232 duties are based on. So this has been a huge issue. NCBFAA has gotten involved, AAEI has gotten involved. A lot of conversations are happening. And there is some guidance from CBP that's out there, but it's not really in depth or as in depth as needed by importers. The NCBFAA issued some guidance to its members. So if you're a member, go out there and look at that. I thought the FAQs were a fantastic product produced by NCBFAA members and their customs committee leadership. And one of the things I did is caution customs brokers from really advising importers beyond what is listed in the written guidance. That is an area that really lawyers should be weighing in on, and perhaps the centers at CBP who seem reluctant to give advice. So we're still in the confusing time. We are seeing a lot of 28s and 29s come out asking some specific questions about how importers valued that steel and aluminum content. So you can expect these questions to come, and I would recommend that any importer of record start looking at the information if you haven't already. Look at the information, gather those documents, and put them in a place where it can be accessed if customs does ask you those questions. Right now, they're advising that the value of the steel that the importer paid for that steel and aluminum content, which isn't always able to be separated from the entire product. So going back in that supply chain has not only been essential in doing that, but also understanding the valuation of those components at each point has become essential, which leads me to the next topic I want to discuss, which is reasonable care. Reasonable care has always been the standard that CBP has expected importers and carriers to have concerning the importation of goods into the United States. Customs brokers have responsible supervision and control, which is a little bit separate, but the other trade participants, specifically the importers, are required to meet reasonable care standards. They are supposed to take reasonable care and ensuring that the information that they transmit to CBP and provide and base their transaction off of is accurate and true to the best of their ability. So what's the best of their ability? I think that's a changing definition, especially as CBP seems to be evolving in their expectations of importers and foreign exporters. We see lots of situations where there is no written guidance, but we are seeing an increasing number of 28s, like I mentioned. Within that 28 and 29, there seems to be an expectation that importers have all of this information available in their records. And as these 232s have just come into being in the last year, if you've bought these products or those products were in assembly when that 232 case came out, you really didn't have an expectation that you would have access to that information or that you would actually know it at all or have records indicating what that is. So a lot of importers are in the position right now where they're trying to go back into the supply chain And they're meeting some resistance in getting that information, not just because parties don't want to provide it, but that they don't have it themselves at, the first level of supply chain vendor, or your second level of supplier, third level of supplier. They have to go so deep. And there seems to be an expectation by CBP that not only do you have the information already, but you can make it available because you're making a claim with the government that this is what it's valued at. They seem to be forgetting based on the available information that you have that is considered reasonable. So the definition of reasonable care seems to be going up. It seems to be setting a higher bar. And I think that's also because CBP has access to a lot of the AI tools, the mapping tools, that don't just map in a linear fashion. They're mapping, kind of in 3D and understanding all the levels and how all of these suppliers are connected. So CBP has this information and they seem to not understand that most of the trade doesn't. Most of the trade only has what they base their transaction on, which could have been a year or more ago. I think our whole industry is evolving. We're going to need more technology to meet those requirements. And I think along the way, we have to recognize that CBP's standard of care for reasonable care is going to be a little bit higher. They are expecting that the importer knows and can provide more information than what they actually do today. The FMC, the Federal Maritime Commission, swore in a new member. We do believe that there's going to be elections for the commissioner seat, who's going to lead that commission, who's going to be the chair in the next month or so. So if you are a shipper and you ship by ocean, that's something you may want to pay attention to and make sure that your trade associations that you're involved in are aware of that and setting meetings with that individual. We do understand that this individual has a little bit of maritime background, so that's also good, and understands trade to a certain degree. When we have a government official who has a background that does lend itself well to that position, it's always puts the trade in a better position to have really good conversations with them. Also, lawmakers introduced an importer bill to replace the tariffs. So this is kind of an importer registration link or a licensing program that could eventually replace the IEPA tariffs. This program concept has been around for a while, and usually customs has pushed back because they don't want to oversee or implement an importer of record licensing program. It provides, difficulties to CBP because they have to license individuals on a company basis. And when you're dealing with, 100,000 importers from really small to really big, it creates a lot of challenge for CBP from an administration perspective. But if this law comes into effect, that's going to be a role that CBP is going to have to play. So we'll keep an eye on that. And speaking of IEPA tariffs, this is why I chose the song Anti-Hero, and specifically the lyrics. A lot of people don't recognize the title Anti-Hero from Taylor Swift. However, you'll recognize the lyrics, which are, "It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me." Everyone knows that. That song was so popular and it was out there for so long and still is played occasionally. There were thousands of people online today at 10 o'clock Eastern waiting for the Supreme Court to issue decisions. Many expected the IEPA tariff decision to be announced, and it was not. There was only one case that was decided today, which is not necessarily trade related. And so you could almost hear this collective sigh of frustration that came out at about 9:02 Central and 10:02 Eastern time, of people just really frustrated. There was a lot of hype. Major publications in the trade industry were saying we're going to have a decision. It's likely we're going to have a decision. Lots of online speculation happened. Lots of hype out there that really led to all these people trying to get online and really hear this decision as it was happening. And it didn't. In reality, nobody knows when this is coming unless you are working at the court. And if you're working at the court and you're talking about when this decision is coming out, you probably won't have a job tomorrow. So we're really not sure when this is going to come out. And, in this way, the trade industry kind of became the problem. We became the problem in that we were hyping this all up. We had a lot of importers, a lot of lawyers, a lot of people. My gosh, it's going to come out. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? And really the decision didn't come out. So we don't know what it means yet. It's all speculation. And the issue with speculation, versus an educated guess or an educated prediction is that there's not a lot to base a prediction on. There's not a lot of things in the past that have been like this, a decision like this, that can really determine how to make an educated guess. It's unprecedented territory. We're hearing this at the Supreme Court because of that. And we really have to understand that it'll come out when it comes out. Now, that being said, I'll give a prediction. In Cindy's crystal ball, when I look at my crystal ball, I'm thinking probably February. And here's why. This is why I'm basing it on that. One, the electronic changes come out after the 6th. If this introduced bill regarding licensing comes into fruition and moves, well, there's many, many hurdles to it moving in that time frame, it gives a framework for the administration to actually assess tariffs or assess duty collection in some way, shape, or form that is in an alternate form to IEPA duties. I just think that the timing is more appropriate for that time. The justices seem to take a long time. They seem to understand the complexity of the issues that they were going to be ruling on, which needs a lot of discussion, a lot of research before they make a decision. My prediction is in February. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope it comes out next week or the week after, but we'll see. I'm thinking February timeframe. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we get it sooner. But here's your warning: to not be part of the problem. Don't be the problem. Don't be singing the Taylor Swift song. Hi, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. So let's all wait patiently as we can for something like this. We'll talk to you next week.